And nuts, seeds, and peanuts are our best food sources of vitamin E. 96% of Americans, by the way, don't get enough vitamin E from their diets. Plus, really beneficial fiber types, great heart-healthy fats. And they're also usually good sources of vitamin B1, biotin, folate, copper, magnesium, manganese, polyphenols, and phytosterols, a class of phytonutrients that help lower cholesterol. And the health benefits of just an ounce per day of nuts, seeds, and/or peanuts are huge. Hit me, Producer Potts.
Dr. Sarah, what are the top 5 foods we can add to our diets to improve our health, and how much of them do we need to eat to get the benefits of them?
So first is vegetables. Ideally, we would consume 5 servings per day. Next is fruit. Ideally, we would consume 2 or 3 servings per day. Next is legumes. Ideally, we would consume at least 4 servings per week and up to 1.5, 2 servings per day. Next is nuts and seeds. Ideally, we would consume at least 4 servings per week and up to a serving per day. And last is seafood. Ideally, we would consume at least 3 servings per week and again, up to every day, up to every meal.
Okay, now before you jump into all the whys, we should be eating these specific 5 foods and the servings amounts for everyone. Where can we find the simple way to track all of these and the amazing thing that you created for everyone? Where can we find that?
I love your leading questions, Producer Potts. So if you are interested in both a little bit more of the whys, but also a really handy dandy way to track whether you are jumping right in with both feet or working up to those serving targets iteratively, because baby steps are amazingly powerful for lifelong sustainable habits, I suggest checking out my Nutrivore Weekly Serving Matrix. That is included in my book, Nutrivore, The Radical New Science for Getting the Nutrients You Need from the Food You Eat. Or if you'd prefer a digital resource, hop on over to nutrivore.com, where you can get the Nutrivore Weekly Serving Matrix as a download. You can print out your checklists and keep track that way.
Okay, let's jump into our first food to add, vegetables. What nutrients do they have?
So vegetables, of course, is a huge food group, and we are including all culinary vegetables here. So nutritional sciences uses the same categorizations as how you would use the food in your kitchen. So that means tomatoes count as a vegetable, squash, cucumbers, okra all count as vegetables, even though botanically they are fruit. And vegetables contain a wide variety of fiber types that's really good for supporting a healthy gut microbiome. A huge collection of beneficial phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are broadly anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, but each collection of phytonutrients has its own unique health benefits, and we maximize the health benefits of phytonutrients when we are consuming a wide variety of foods. Plus, vegetables tend to be great sources of vitamin C, vitamin K, manganese, copper. Many of them are also great sources of B vitamins, especially vitamin B1, B5, B6, biotin, and folate. And we find lots of our best food sources of potassium and magnesium among vegetables. And I said 5 servings of vegetables per day, but it is worth noting that the science here is pretty mixed. So there are studies showing that just 3 servings of vegetables per day has about the same health effect as 5, which is a 25% reduction in all-cause mortality, which is an indirect way to measure overall health and longevity. And 25% is huge. That roughly translates to an extra 2.5 years of life. But there are more studies showing that 5 is optimal than 3. So if 5 sounds intimidating, then definitely listen to the studies that say 3. But once you've got 3 down, it really is probably better to work up to 5. Now, a serving is not as much as you think. A serving for most vegetables is 1 cup measured raw and chopped. A cup is about the same volume as your fist. Now it's 2 cups for leafy vegetables, or 2 fists. And that's just because leafy vegetables, when you measure them, there's a lot more air in between all the leaves. And all of those will shrink down to about 1/2 cup when cooked. So another tip to add more vegetables, if this is a habit that you are really struggling to form, is to stick with cooked options because that will add up faster. And remember that every little bit of vegetables counts. You get about the same amount of health benefit going from no vegetables to a 1 serving per day as you get from going from 1 serving per day to 4. So whatever little baby steps you make in your vegetable eating journey of progress is going to be good.
That was great. Okay, let's jump into food number 2, which is fruit.
So fruit also contains a wide variety of different fiber types, typically different types of fiber than vegetables, so feeding a different group of beneficial bacteria in our gut microbiomes. One of several reasons why it is better for our overall health to consume both fruits and vegetables rather than one or the other. They also contain a vast array of phytonutrients, again, complementary to the ones we find in vegetables. And fruit tends to be a great source of vitamin C and copper. Many are also great sources of B vitamins, especially B1, B2, B5, B6, biotin, and folate. We get some great sources of vitamin K among fruits, as well as manganese, magnesium, and potassium. With fruit, we see that 2 or 3 servings per day is the sweet spot for the most health benefit. That reduces all-cause mortality risk by about 10%. And there are some health outcomes for which fruit is even more beneficial than fiber. For example, blood pressure, metabolic syndrome, and diverticular disease risk. A serving is very similar to vegetables. It is 1 cup measured raw and chopped for something like pineapple or a melon, whole if you're talking about blueberries or raspberries. And that translates to a medium-sized fruit or a fruit about the volume of your fist. So a fist-sized apple or orange, or 2 kiwis, or 3 clementine oranges.
All right, food number 3 to add, legumes.
So legumes are the most nutrient-dense, starchy food on average. They are packed with vitamins, especially vitamin B1, B2, B6, biotin, and they are some of our best food sources of folate. They're great sources of copper, iron, magnesium, manganese, potassium, selenium, and zinc. They contain a really impressive amount of protein and tons of fiber, and they can have way more polyphenol phytonutrients than even our most impressive vegetables. And with legumes, the more, the better. Studies comparing eating 2.5 servings per week compared to 2 or fewer servings per month show that reduces all-cause mortality risk by like 17%. 4 servings per week, which is why I think the preponderance of evidence lies as a really great minimum goal, compared to once per week or less, reduces heart disease risk by 22%. And studies show we continue to get benefits of adding more legumes all the way up to about 1.5 servings per day. A serving is 1 ounce if we're talking about the raw, dry version, like a bag of dried black beans or kidney beans or lentils or split peas. And that translates to 1/2 cup cooked, or 1/2 cup of the canned version of those same foods. For tofu, tempeh, and natto, a serving is defined as a 1/4 cup.
Food number 4 to add, seafood.
So seafood is by far and away our best food sources of the long-chain omega-3 fats, eicosapentaenoic acid, EPA, and docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, which are crazy important for supporting cardiovascular health, immune health, and neurological health. But fish and shellfish also have double, triple, up to 5 or 6 times the nutrient density of your typical meats that you're going to find at the grocery store. Thanks to being packed with vitamins, fish is an especially good source of vitamin B1, B2, B3, B6, B9, B12, and vitamin E, plus a bunch of minerals, zinc, phosphorus, magnesium, iron, copper, potassium, and selenium. And the oily, cold water fish like salmon are additionally great sources of vitamin A and vitamin D. Fish from the ocean is also a great source of iodine. And if you're eating canned fish with bones, that is one of the best food sources of calcium. Shellfish tend to be even more nutrient dense, with similar nutrients but even higher levels of zinc, vitamin B12, plus typically providing dozens of trace minerals. Most of the science points to aiming for at least 3 servings of seafood per week. A serving is 4 ounces measured raw, and that typically will shrink down to about 3 ounces measured cooked. If you're talking about a piece of fish, that is about the same volume as the palm of your hand. But any amount of fish that you can fit into your normal routine is going to be beneficial. For example, a 2021 meta-analysis showed that just 20 grams of fish per day, that's like 3/4 of an ounce, reduces cardiovascular disease mortality risk by 4%, and by 4% for each 20 grams that you add. A 2019 meta-analysis showed that 100 grams of fish daily, just shy of one serving, reduces all-cause mortality risk by 8%. But a 2017 meta-analysis showed that just 40 grams per day, or about 1.5 ounces, results in a 9% decrease in all-cause mortality. And with fish, both wild-caught and farmed options are awesome, and fresh, frozen, and canned options are all equally as good.
Okay, food number 5 to add: nuts and seeds and peanuts.
Yes, we definitely categorize peanuts with nuts and seeds and not with legumes. For the same type of reasoning we categorize tomatoes as a vegetable. It all has to do with the patterns of nutrients these foods contain. And nuts, seeds, and peanuts are our best food sources of vitamin E. 96% of Americans, by the way, don't get enough vitamin E from their diets. Plus, really beneficial fiber types, great heart-healthy fats. And they're also usually good sources of vitamin B1, biotin, folate, copper, magnesium, manganese, polyphenols, and phytosterols, a class of phytonutrients that help lower cholesterol. And the health benefits of just an ounce per day of nuts, seeds, and/or peanuts are huge. A 2016 meta-analysis calculated that benefit at an 18% reduction in all-cause mortality. But a 2015 meta-analysis calculated that at a 27% reduction in all-cause mortality. Even just 4 servings per week has huge health benefits, especially to cardiovascular disease risk, neurodegenerative disease, and some forms of cancer. And a serving is just 1 ounce. That translates to about 1/4 cup if they're whole or roughly chopped, or about what would fit in the palm of your hand. And if we're talking about a nut or seed butter, your favorite peanut butter, it's about 2 tablespoons. And while we don't get more benefit when we exceed an ounce per day, the benefits level off. So there's no harm to more nuts and seeds either.
Wow, Dr. Sarah, thank you for running us through the 5 most important foods we can add to our diet. And I just want to add that we don't have to eat all of these, but if we do focus on these, we meet the goal of getting all the nutrients we need from the foods we eat. And it gives us more room for quality of life foods, right?
Yes, so it is the most efficient way to achieve the Nutrivore goal of getting all of the nutrients our bodies need from the foods we eat, but it's not the only way to get there. So if there are any of these foods that you don't eat, you don't like, you can't afford, you're allergic, you have dietary restrictions that don't allow you to eat these foods, understanding the nutrients these foods contain helps you to identify other food sources of those nutrients. So where else can you get your vitamin E if you are allergic to nuts and seeds, for example, or where else you can get your omega-3 fats if you're allergic to seafood, for example. And also helps you identify the need for supplementation strategies if there are no other foods that can give you that same nutrition. And if eating these foods feels like a big task, might I suggest grabbing a copy of the Nutrivore Weekly Serving Matrix? That is either available in my book, Nutrivore, or as a digital resource on my website, nutrivore.com. And you can use that as inspiration to iterate towards these serving goals of each of these foods and track your progress week to week.